The impossible proposition. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been in progress for 3 standard cycles, and still no solution emerged. High Arbiter Zelnoth of the Exterior Empire watched the holographic displays with growing despair. Red markers spread across the star maps like blood and water, each one representing a world touched by the Vrex Plague. 17 worlds, 4 billion souls, 3 weeks until complete system collapse. The council chamber buzzed with desperate voices, each species offering their expertise, their resources, their prayers to whatever deities they still believed in. The Plexians had offered their advanced biotechnology, the Kraliks provided military quarantine support, the Southians opened their medical archives spanning 10,000 years. None of it mattered. The Vrex Plague consumed organic tissue at the molecular level, rewriting genetic code faster than any known treatment could counteract. It was a death sentence written in base pairs, and the galaxy had no eraser. "We must accept the inevitable," Counselor Thren of Plexia spoke, his crystalline form dimming with sorrow. "Evacuation protocols should begin immediately. We can save some populations before the plague spreads further." A murmur of reluctant agreement rippled through the chamber. Zelnoth felt the weight of leadership crushing down upon his thorax. To abandon billions went against everything the council stood for, yet what choice remained? "If I may interrupt this festival of surrender," the voice cut through the chamber like a blade through silk. Every delegate turned toward the human section where Ambassador David Chen stood with his hands clasped behind his back. The human wore what his species called a suit, dark fabric that somehow managed to look both formal and vaguely threatening. His face carried that peculiar expression humans made when they found something amusing that nobody else understood. "Ambassador Chen," Zelnoth said carefully. The humans had only joined the council 2 cycles ago, and their presence remained controversial. "Unless you have a solution to offer, perhaps it would be best to—" "Oh, we have a solution," Chen said, walking toward the center platform with that confident stride humans always seem to possess. "My people can cure the Vrex Plague within 1 standard week." The chamber erupted. Delegates from 100 worlds shouted in disbelief, anger, or desperate hope. Zelnoth raised his primary manipulator for silence, his compound eyes fixed on the human. "Ambassador Chen, the Vrex Plague has confounded the greatest medical minds in the galaxy for decades. The Southians alone have spent millennia studying similar pathogens. You arrive at this council barely 2 cycles past, and you claim to cure what we cannot even slow?" Chen smiled, and Zelnoth felt that strange unease humans always inspired. "High Arbiter, my people cured diseases that killed millions of us before we even left our home world. We've conquered viruses, bacteria, parasites, prions, and genetic disorders that would make your Vrex Plague look like a minor inconvenience. We've literally brought people back from clinical death. We've replaced failing organs with mechanical ones or grown new ones from single cells. We've edited our own genetic code for therapeutic purposes." "Impossible!" Commander Vosh of the Kraliks military barked. "Such advancement would require 10,000 years of development minimum. Humans have barely discovered faster-than-light travel. We don't need 10,000 years. We need motivation, coffee, and a dangerous lack of regard for our own safety. The 3 pillars of human medical advancement." Counselor Thren's crystalline form pulsed with confusion. "I do not understand. What does a beverage and safety violations have to do with medicine?" Chen pulled up a holographic display, and the council collectively recoiled. The images showed humans in various states of medical experimentation, trials, and procedures that seemed barbaric by galactic standards. "Let me tell you about human medicine," Chen began, his voice taking on a lecturing tone that made several delegates uncomfortable. "When we discovered diseases, we didn't just study them. We infected ourselves with them deliberately. We call it inoculation. We take weakened versions of deadly pathogens and inject them into healthy individuals, especially children, to train our immune systems." "You deliberately infect your young? That is monstrous," Zelnoth felt, his stomach's churn. That's Tuesday, Chen corrected. When we develop new medicines, we test them on ourselves, not just volunteers, mind you. The scientists creating the cures often use themselves as the first test subjects. We have a rich history of researchers drinking bacterial cultures, injecting experimental serums, and exposing themselves to radiation just to see what happens. The holographic display showed historical records, a human deliberately infecting himself with stomach bacteria to prove they caused ulcers, another drinking cholera-contaminated water, researchers exposing themselves to yellow fever, malaria, and countless other horrors. "This is madness," Thren whispered. "Absolute madness." "This is humanity," Chen said proudly. "We don't wait for perfect safety. We don't spend centuries in careful deliberation. When people are dying, we act. Sometimes recklessly, often dangerously, always effectively." Commander Vosh leaned forward, his predatory instincts engaged. "You would do this for us? Risk your people for species you barely know?" "Risk?" Chen laughed, that unsettling sound humans made when they found dark humor in serious situations. "Commander, we're not risking anything. We already have the cure." The chamber fell silent. Zelnoth felt his breathing apparatus seize momentarily. "Explain yourself, Ambassador, immediately!" Chen's smile widened. "The moment we learned about the Vrex plague 3 weeks ago, we began working on it. We synthesized samples from your medical data. We ran it through our quantum simulation networks, testing billions of molecular combinations simultaneously. We identified 17 potential cures. Then we tested all 17 on human subjects within 72 hours. Tested on humans? Thren's horror was palpable. You used your own people as experimental subjects for an alien disease? We had over 10,000 volunteers, Chen said casually, as if discussing the weather. Humans are weird like that. Tell us something is dangerous and untested, and we'll line up to try it. It's how we landed on our moon, split the atom, and taught ourselves to fly by throwing ourselves off cliffs until we figured out the aerodynamics. The holographic display showed human facilities, sterile and efficient, where volunteers were being systematically infected with the Vrex plague and then treated with experimental cures. The survival rate climbed with each iteration, the humans refining their approach with terrifying speed. 4 of the 17 cures showed promise. 2 had unacceptable side effects. 1 worked too slowly. The 4th one, designated compound VX47, neutralizes the Vrex plague within 60 hours with a 98.7% survival rate. We've already manufactured enough doses for every infected individual in the affected systems, plus a 30% safety margin. Zelnoth could not speak. Around him, the council sat in stunned silence. "But there is a cost," Chen said, his expression becoming serious. "Human medicine is effective, but it's not gentle. The treatment will be painful. The side effects will be significant. Some patients will wish they had died instead of enduring the cure. But they will live. That's what matters, isn't it?" "When can you begin deployment?" Zelnoth finally managed to ask. Chen checked a small device on his wrist. "Our medical ships entered the quarantine zones approximately 4 hours ago. We've been treating patients since then. We just wanted to let you all know officially before the cure statistics started coming through your channels." Seemed polite. The chamber erupted again, this time in confusion and outrage. They had been curing the plague while the council debated? They had acted without authorization, without approval, without even informing the governing body? "This is a violation of every protocol," Vosh roared. "You cannot simply—" "We can, and we did," Chen interrupted. "Because while you debate and deliberate, people die. That's not acceptable to humans. It never has been. It never will be." "Your arrogance is breathtaking," Thren said, his form flickering with indignation. "Our arrogance saves lives," Chen replied coldly. "You can be offended or you can be grateful. We honestly don't care which." Zelnoth raised his manipulator again, demanding silence. When the chamber quieted, he focused on the human ambassador. "Ambassador Chen,
Your actions today represent both the greatest gift and the gravest insult this council has ever received. You have saved billions while simultaneously demonstrating our inadequacy. I do not know whether to thank you or censure you." Chen smiled, returned, "High Arbiter, you'll have plenty of time to decide. Our medical team is about to arrive here to explain the treatment protocols and train your physicians in the administration procedures. I should warn you, though." "Warn us of what?" "Dr. Okonkwo, our chief medical officer, is even more direct than I am, and she has very strong opinions about galactic medical standards." Chen glanced toward the entrance as the doors began to open. "Actually, she's probably going to insult you all within the first 5 minutes. Just so you're prepared." The doors opened fully, and a human woman entered, followed by a team of medical personnel carrying equipment that
The method behind the madness. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo did not waste time with pleasantries. She activated her own holographic display, and the council chamber was immediately filled with medical data that scrolled past faster than most delegates could process. Charts, molecular structures, treatment protocols, and success rates flooded the air in a dizzying array of information. "Let me be clear from the start," she began, her voice carrying the kind of authority that comes from years of saving lives in impossible situations. "The Vrex plague should never have spread beyond the First World. Your quarantine protocols are adequate. Your detection methods are excellent. Your treatment approach is what failed you, and it failed you catastrophically." Counselor Thren's crystalline form posed with indignation. "Dr. Okonkwo, the Southian Medical Archives represent 10 millennia of accumulated knowledge. The Plexian biotechnology is considered the finest in known space. How dare you suggest?" "I dare, because I'm right," Okonkwo interrupted, zooming in on a specific molecular structure. "You approached the Vrex plague like scholars. You studied it, you documented it, you ran simulations that took months to complete. You waited for peer review. You followed every safety protocol, every ethical guideline, every careful step in your medical doctrine. And while you did all of that, 4 billion people got infected." She pulled up another display, showing human medical facilities in frantic action. "Humans don't approach disease like scholars. We approach it like war, because that's what it is. A war against an enemy that doesn't negotiate, doesn't show mercy, and doesn't stop killing until we make it stop." Zelnoth leaned forward, his compound eyes reflecting the holographic data. "Explain your methodology, Doctor. How did you accomplish in 3 weeks what we could not achieve in decades?" Okonkwo smiled, but it was not a warm expression. "We cheated. From your perspective, at least. Let me walk you through the human approach to medical crisis, and you can decide whether to be impressed or horrified. Probably both." She manipulated the display to show a timeline. "Hour 0. We received your data on the Vrex plague. Hour 6. We had synthesized viable samples and begun quantum simulation testing. Hour 12. We had identified 143 potential treatment vectors. Hour 24. We had narrowed it down to 17 promising candidates. Hour 30. We began human trials." 30 hours? Commander Vosh interrupted, his aggressive posture momentarily forgotten in his shock. "You began testing on living subjects after 30 hours? "On volunteer living subjects," Okonkwo corrected. "And before you lecture me about ethics, understand that those volunteers knew exactly what they were signing up for. We've been doing this for centuries. It's called informed consent, and humans take it very seriously. We explain the risks, we document everything, and then we let people choose. And humans, being humans, chose to help." She pulled up files on the volunteers. Thousands of faces. Human faces. Each one accompanied by a brief statement about why they volunteered. Zelnoth read some of them, his translation implant working overtime. "Because someone has to go first. My daughter died from a disease doctor said was incurable. They were wrong. Maybe we're wrong about this too. I'm 83 years old. I've lived a good life. If my last act can save billions, that's a pretty good ending." Seems like an interesting way to spend a Tuesday. That last one seemed particularly human, treating potential death as merely interesting. We divided our volunteers into 17 groups. Each group received one of our experimental treatments. We monitored them constantly, adjusted dosages in real time, and combined approaches when necessary. 4 treatments showed immediate promise. 2 had acceptable side effects. 1 worked too slowly for practical deployment. Compound VX47 emerged as the clear winner by hour 72. And the volunteers who received the other 13 treatments? Thren asked quietly. The ones that did not show promise? Okonkwo's expression hardened. 347 volunteers died. Another 600 suffered significant adverse effects. We documented everything. We learned from every failure. And we used that knowledge to refine VX47 until it worked. Those volunteers knew the risks. They accepted them. They died, saving billions. The chamber fell into an uncomfortable silence. This was the part of human medicine that disturbed the other species the most, the willingness to sacrifice their own for the greater good, documented and calculated with cold efficiency. "You speak of their deaths as if they were acceptable losses," Vosch said, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. "They were acceptable because they chose to be. That's the difference between humans and, apparently, every other species in this council. We don't just accept risk, we volunteer for it. We run toward danger while others run away. It's not that we don't value life, it's that we value purpose more." She shifted the display to show the current treatment operations. Right now, across 17 worlds, our medical teams are administering VX47 to infected patients. The treatment is aggressive. It has to be. The Vrex plague rewrites genetic code, so our cure has to rewrite it back faster. It's essentially a controlled genetic war happening inside the patient's body. The images showed patients in various states of treatment. Some convulsed, others screamed. Many looked like they wished for death, but the vital signs showed improvement, rapid and undeniable. The side effects include severe pain, temporary paralysis, hallucinations, and in some cases, permanent changes to pigmentation or minor physiological structures. But 98.7% of patients survive. The alternative was 100% mortality. I'll take those odds any day. Zelnoth studied the data carefully. "Your medicine is brutal, Dr. Okonkwo." "Life is brutal, High Arbiter. Our medicine just refuses to be less brutal than the diseases we fight." She crossed her arms. "Now, let's talk about why your medical establishment is so far behind where it should be." "I strongly object to that characterization," Thren began, but Okonkwo cut her off with a gesture. "Your objection is noted and ignored. Here are the facts. You have longer lifespans than humans. You have better baseline biology. You have more advanced technology in almost every field. And yet your medical capabilities are centuries behind ours. Do you know why?" When no one answered, she continued. "Because you're too cautious. You wait too long. You prioritize safety over progress. You won't take risks even when the alternative is death. You've built medical systems designed never to fail, which means they're also designed never to truly succeed." She pulled up comparative data between human and galactic medical development. Humans cured smallpox by deliberately infecting people with cowpox, a related but less deadly disease. We didn't understand the mechanism. We just knew it worked. You would have spent 100 years studying the relationship before attempting treatment. We saved millions while you would have been writing research proposals. We developed penicillin by accident. A scientist left a petri dish uncovered, noticed mold killed the bacteria, and thought, "I wonder if that's useful." Within years, we were mass producing it. You would have treated it as contamination and thrown it away. We learned to perform surgery by practicing on corpses, then on wounded soldiers, then on anyone who needed it. We made mistakes. People died. We learned from those deaths and got better. You would have waited for perfect knowledge before attempting anything,
and millions would have died waiting. Commander Vosch stood, his posture aggressive. You speak of caution as a weakness, as if our desire to protect life is somehow flawed. It is when that caution causes more deaths than it prevents, Okonkwo shot back. How many people died while you debated the ethics of experimental treatment? How many died while you waited for peer review? How many died because you were too afraid to try something that might not work? The chamber erupted in arguments, delegates shouting over each other in dozen languages. Zelnoth let it continue for a moment before calling for order. Dr. Okonkwo, he said carefully, you have saved billions of lives. For that, the Council is grateful beyond measure. But your methods, your philosophy, your entire approach to medicine challenges everything we believe about the sanctity of life and the importance of caution. Good, Okonkwo replied. You should be challenged. Comfortable beliefs don't save lives. Desperate innovation does. Humans learn that lesson the hard way, over and over again. We've been on the edge of extinction more times than we cared to count. We've watched diseases wipe out entire populations. We've seen our people suffer and die from things we didn't understand. And we decided that we'd rather die trying to save each other than live carefully and watch each other perish. She walked toward the center of the chamber, her presence somehow larger than her physical form. You want to know the real secret of human medicine? It's not our technology. It's not our intelligence. It's our absolute refusal to accept death as inevitable. When you tell a human something is incurable, we hear a challenge. When you say something is impossible, we hear a dare. When you say someone is going to die,